What did you do in Southport when your husband was away in the military during the war? What did you do back in Southport? How did you keep yourself busy?
Well, I was working at the county agent's office, but they let me take his job, my husband's job, at the courthouse till the war was over. He could come home. So I worked in the auditor's office where he was working. But there was one. I'm not a bookkeeper, but I had to be one. So one book I remember was so hard for a person who was not a bookkeeper, and he got so tired, I guess, of teaching me. He looked at me. He said, "If you weren't my wife, I'd walk out of here and let you figure it out for yourself."
Oh, was that Daddy? Oh, before he left?
Just before he left.
Well, when he left, did you not work out at the surveying place? Or that was while you were married? When you worked
I worked for at the Farm Bureau.
Surveyors.
That's when we had maps and you had to measure land on the maps. And it was called the,
That's okay.
AAA office.
Was that located in Lockwood Folly?
Where the Methodist church is, when you come off the bridge, at Supply, Lockwood Folly River, well, the building was right in front of that church, but it was an old farm building. I don't know what to call it, but we had no electricity. So if it turned dark, we just have to sit and wait till it got light and light enough to work. Had one telephone that might have been the only one at Supply. And Mr. J.E. Dodson was county agent and one of the best men, one of the best bosses anybody could ever have. So if any of his children are around, I want them to know that we highly respected him and loved him too. And I worked there until I went to California that year.
So first you worked at the courthouse, and then you worked at the surveyor's office?
No, I went to work at the surveyor's office. And then when my husband had to go in the military, I left that job at Supply and took his job in the office in Southport.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So, and then when he knew he was going to go, that's when he started training you to do the bookkeeping job? He knew he was going to be drafted?
Oh, yeah. Well, he knew. He had 2 weeks, I think, to get ready.
To train.
And so he had to train you that quickly, huh?
He just trained somebody else to after they found out I don't know. It's been a long time ago.
That's okay.
But Ressie Watley, if any of you remember her, she took the job and worked there until she retired.
Now, did you volunteer with the Red Cross during the war?
In the Masonic Hall, we rolled bandages.
Rolled bandages? Uh-huh.
Dr. Dozier's wife was one of the ones that I remember there. Oh, I guess about 10 of us. I guess we met every night and rolled bandages
Yeah.
with the Red Cross. And we had a good time
Yeah,
doing
you probably talked and stuff, right?
gossip, no, whatever, what you want. But the hardest thing for me, our house was on the street just a block from the courthouse.
Mm-hmm.
And when I would get off work in the afternoon, I'd walk through the park, get to my front door, and burst into tears.
Oh.
But we had a small apartment upstairs that we rented, and there were two couples that stayed, or the girls stayed up there, and their husbands were stationed at Coast Guard Station. But they were so nice to me. They soon learned that my routine. So they were at my front door to meet me when I got home from work. And that was a big help.
So you didn't have to come home to an empty house. Yeah.
It was tough. It was tough. But the nice thing, there wasn't a boy, girl, not a person from Southport lost their lives during the war.
There was one buried in the cemetery, though, Mom. Who was that?
He was a foreigner that was killed. His ship was blown up
Yeah.
outside Southport, so they buried him there.
Do you remember when the John D. Gill got hit by the submarine? Do you remember that?
Was that his ship that got hit by a submarine?
Yeah,
The merchant ship, the John D. Gill, it got hit by a submarine right off of Southport.
there's a little memorial down on the waterfront. Yes,
Mhm.
that's the one.
Yeah. Do you remember when that happened?
Oh, yes.
What do you remember?
The ones that survived came up with black oil on them.
It was an oil tanker, Linda. That's why they.
It was, and we didn't really have blackouts in Southport except partial. But we had people on the watch.
So there was not full blackouts, huh?
Did you know there was a spy in Southport?
There was a what?
A German spy in Southport?
No, I hadn't heard that story.
Okay, Mom.
We moved out.
You can tell now.
Several people knew they were spies. And I asked my dad one day, I said, well, you know he's there. Why don't you do something about it? He said, we have bigger fish to catch us or something of that order, because they were picking up his mail, and the few that knew it, I didn't know that, and my dad knew it, and but he didn't tell me anything till we had moved from Southport.
Goodness. Do you know the name of the person? The spy?
They were German spies.
Did you know their names? She had a wedding shower for somebody, for Myrtle Watson. Isn't she the one that
The
had
spy woman, yes.
Spy woman held a baby shower?
A lot of people thought they were, but you know how it is. But no, they didn't know she was bad. She worked her way into society, if you want to call it that. And anyway, when she had a shower for Lib Watson, Di's cousin, and Lib, of course, gave her the list. And when I got to the door, she looked at me with her nose in the air, and she said, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "Because Elizabeth is family, and she asked me to come." Well, nothing else was said.
Wow.
You're bringing back a lot of memories.
You don't remember her name, the woman?
The spy.
Yeah.
Bye.
No,
I don't remember her. If we think of it, I'll text you, Liz.
Yeah, it might come to you later.
That would be fun, Mom.
I don't know. I guess I knew her name.
We might have a write-up on Elizabeth's wedding or one of the parties.
Yeah.
I didn't have that.
When the war came, were there a lot of weddings?
Well, but I know there were 2 showers for Lib Watson. And there wasn't. You just went around laughing and trying to. But as I said, my parents lived just a block in front of us. And my brother had I believe it was an English shepherd, but it was a small dog. And Jimmy Pravat had ordered it for his mother, and she didn't want it, so he gave it to my brother. And that dog, Nero, I would leave Mother and Dad to walk that block through the park at night, and Nero walked right there with me. He lay down in front of my bedroom window. He knew which one it was. And the next morning, when he saw me stirring, he got up, stretched himself, and walked back over to Daddy's house. But that dog, I guess he would have jumped anybody that touched me.
Aw.
But he was a nice dog. Belonged to my brother.